Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate on DraftKings for Monday, June the 17th. We're going to look at Monday's 12-game slate, talk about pitching, start off there, work our way through the pitcher-player pool. I'll be sure to hit on all the pitchers that I like today. We'll start with the stud options, then we'll go through some of the mid-tier plays I like, and then if there's any value plays at pitcher, I'll be sure to touch on those as well. Then we'll look at 3 hitters that I like for today. We'll talk about some stacks that I'll be playing. Then towards the end of the video, we'll be looking at some BVP plays. Just before we do get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button down below so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. Would really appreciate it if you would subscribe. But starting off at the top of the pitcher-player pool, we got 3 guys over 10K today on DraftKings. Mike Soroka is the most expensive of the 3. He's $10,500 in a matchup at home against the Mets. Then you have Jose Barrios at home against the Red Sox and Luis Castillo at home against the Astros. Just between these 3 guys, I think my favorite option would probably be Soroka at home against the Mets, but I don't feel like he's going to be a core play for me on the slate, and I don't think spending up at pitcher is going to be something that I look to do today. There's just some guys that are 2K, 3K cheaper that I think have just as much upside as some of the top options. Soroka has been pretty good this year. He's been very consistent. His last start against Pittsburgh, he kind of struggled, really struggled actually, giving up 5 runs, 10 hits through 5 innings. But other than that, Soroka had been pretty solid pretty much all year. He's not a guy that's going to go out there and get a ton of strikeouts. And when you're paying $10,500, you kind of need him to go out there and get almost 10 Ks to be like a good tournament play and be a guy that you have to roster. Like, I think we could look to a guy like Kenta Maeda at 9K at home against the Giants. He could give you just as much upside as the top 3 arms, and he's $1,500 cheaper than Soroka, $1,300 cheaper than Barrios, $1,000 cheaper than Castillo. If I'm spending, I think my favorite expensive option is probably going to be Maeda at 9K at home against the Giants. But still, I think there's even options cheaper than him that give you more upside. Patrick Corbin's one of them. Patrick Corbin at home against the Phillies, I really like here. Given his price tag on DraftKings, he's very hard to avoid for me. I know he's been really struggling lately. His last 3 starts against the Reds, Padres, and White Sox, he's just gotten blown up. 6 runs against Cincinnati, allowed 3 runs against the Padres, 7 runs against the White Sox. But this is still an elite pitcher. This is still a guy that's very good and a pitcher that has a ton of upside, a ton of strikeout upside. And the fact that he's $8,200 on DraftKings, where you have guys like Soroka who are $2,000 more expensive. Barrios against the Red Sox is over $2,000 more expensive. I just don't get that. I really like Corbin here. The matchup, I would say, is not that great. This is a Phillies team that's going to roll out a lot of righties. Segura, Realmuto, Hoskins, Kingery, Sean Rodriguez, Cesar Hernandez, all right-handed hitters. But the guys you're really worried about are probably Segura, Realmuto, and Hoskins. Even though Scott Kingery's been great this year and has really turned things around, he's still not a guy that I'm that afraid of, and he will strike out at times. Sean Rodriguez will strike out. Cesar Hernandez is much better batting left-handed, so facing a lefty, he's going to be batting right-handed here. You can get some Ks from him. Jake Arrieta, the pitcher, will strike out. I do like Corbin here. If he was like $2,000 more, if he was like 10K, 10.2, 10.5, I would not have any interest in him, but the fact that he's $8,200 on DraftKings makes me have a lot of interest in Patrick Corbin today. And then looking at some of the other guys we could possibly consider, maybe in that price range, there's not much that I love around Corbin. I think my favorite play would probably be Tanaka at home against the Rays. I think given this matchup against the Rays, Tanaka does have a little bit of upside here. You do prefer to roster lefties against the Rays because they strike out more versus lefties, but you can get some Ks from the bottom of the lineup. Tanaka is obviously a guy that has a ton of strikeout upside, has a lot of swing and miss stuff, so I wouldn't mind going to him at 8K if you were to look there. Even Mike Fiers at home in Oakland in that great pitcher's park against the Orioles. Mike Fiers is definitely a guy that you could look to at $7,700. But going for value, there's a lot of cheap guys I think are in play today. A couple of them I want to hit on. Miles Mikolas is definitely the first one. $6,400 at home against the Marlins. He really stands out as one of the top value point per dollar pitchers on the slate. Now, when it comes to tournaments, Mikolas could be a guy you maybe go underweight on because I imagine he's going to be pretty popular here. Just the fact that he's facing the Marlins at home, he's a heavy favorite. Marlins have a low total. A lot of people are going to roster Mikolas today. He's probably going to be the cash game SP2. So in tournaments, if you play a lot of lineups and you want to maybe I don't want to say full fade Mikolas, but if you want to come underweight on him, like if he's going to be 30, 40% owned, you could probably play 10, 20%. I wouldn't mind doing that. But he's still just not a guy that I think I could fully fade. I think he's just too cheap for the upside that he has in this matchup. Mikolas isn't a guy that's going to go out there and get 10 strikeouts, but against this Marlins team, we could easily see him pitch 7, 8 innings. He could be really efficient here, go 7, 8 innings, get 6, 7 strikeouts, and get you 25 DraftKings points and be the top value pitcher on the slate. He faced the Marlins in his last start, and he really struggled. 5 innings, 5 runs, 8 hits, just 4 DraftKings points in his last start against the Marlins. I think he has a chance to get some redemption back here. For what it's worth, Mikolas has pitched very well at home this year. On the road, he's actually really struggled. Small sample size, just 7 games at home, 7 games on the road. But in the DraftKings scoring, Mikolas has been much better at home, averaging 18 DK points at home. On the road, just 4 DK points. So Mikolas as a value pitcher at 6,400, I think makes a ton of sense. Felix Pena, assuming he's going to be the long man for the Angels, he is definitely a guy that you could look to against the Blue Jays. A Blue Jays team that does have strikeouts in its lineup. I wouldn't mind going to Pena at 6,700. Even Hernandez at 5,900, Eliza Hernandez. I actually played a decent amount of him on the last slate because he was dirt cheap on DraftKings. He was only 5K. It wasn't the greatest matchup against the Cardinals, but anytime you can get a pitcher that's that cheap, that's fully stretched out, that definitely makes them a reasonable value play. Hernandez here against the Cardinals, I think you could look to at 5,900. I would prefer to get up to Mikolas or to get up to Felix Pena, but Hernandez is not the worst value at 5,900. If I'm going to go to any of these guys under 6K, he would definitely be the guy that I would play. Just not going to go to Tyler Beede against the Dodgers. Definitely not playing Edwin Jackson. The Angels are actually one of my favorite stacks today. So I think that's it for pitcher. Let's go ahead and talk about some bats now. So I did mention the Angels as my favorite stack. I love them here versus Edwin Jackson. Edwin Jackson is just not a good pitcher. This is a dude that I love to stack against. I pretty much stacked against him every time that he started this year, and I'm pretty sure it's worked out almost every time. In his last start against the Orioles, he managed to get through with just minimal damage. I think he gave up like 2 or 3 runs. But against this Angels team that has a lot of power, especially at the top, Tommy La Stella has shown a lot of power this year. Obviously, Mike Trout's a great play today. Shohei Ohtani's a great play. But even like the middle part of the lineup, like Cole Calhoun has power. The Angels are supposed to be getting Justin Upton back, and Justin Upton has some power, and he's also dirt cheap on DraftKings. But the 2 guys I love here versus Jackson are Trout and Ohtani. They are both outfielders that I'm going to be trying to pay up for as much as I can today. So we obviously know Trout and Ohtani have a ton of power. Trout, 18 homers on the year, one of the best hitters in the league. Not much needs to be said here facing Edwin Jackson. Same to be said for Ohtani. After a rough start to the year, this dude's really picked it up lately. Just look at the DraftKings game log. In his last 4 games, he's got 2 homers. In his last 4 games, he hit for the cycle on the 13th. Ohtani, just a really good hitter. Now gets to face Edwin Jackson in Rogers Center, which is actually a pretty favorable hitter's park. Love the Angels here. Trout and Ohtani are obviously 2 of the better plays from the Angels lineup if you're looking to stack them today. And since we didn't pay up for those 10K pitchers, since we went with Corbin as a mid-range SP1 and Mikolas as a value SP2, we have the salary to fit in Trout and Ohtani. So love going to them in the outfield. And then a value play that I really like, you can use them as a one-off or you can stack them with Cleveland. I wouldn't mind stacking Cleveland here against Lance Lynn. But I really like Jason Kipnis at second base. He's only 2,700. Should be batting cleanup here versus Lance Lynn in Texas, in Globe Life Park. One of the more favorable hitters' parks, especially when it's hot. And it's going to be 86 degrees tomorrow in Texas with 58% humidity. The ball should be flying. Although Lance Lynn's been much better this year, this is still a guy that I don't mind attacking, especially with really good lefties. So Francisco Lindor, Carlos Santana, Jason Kipnis, Jose Ramirez, Jake Bauers, I think all of those guys are in play. And the 4 through 6, like if you want to do a 3-man stack of Kipnis, Ramirez, and Bauers, I think that's a really good way to go on DraftKings. Like if you're running a 5-man like Angel stack and then you need like a 3-man stack to go along with your 5-man, definitely look to some of these cheap Indians, specifically the 4 through 6. Kipnis I really like here at 2,700. Hasn't had the best year as of late, but I believe it was Sunday. He did hit a home run on Sunday, so maybe he gets things going. And going into Texas, facing a guy that's always struggled against lefties, I feel like this is a really good spot for Jason Kipnis, and the fact that he's 2,700 just makes him very appealing if you're looking for a second base value play. 5.1 total for the Indians. isn't the highest on the slate, but still I think it's worth looking to if you are wanting to stack the Indians. On the other side, I don't have much interest in the Rangers. Mike Clevenger is making his return off the IL, and Mike Clevenger is a really good pitcher. It is going to be interesting to see how many pitches he throws today. Not sure if they've gave an update yet. He's going to be returning from the 60-day injured list. It looks like we'll see if there's any information on when he last pitched or how many pitches he threw. I'm not sure about that, but Clevenger hasn't pitched in a major league game in over like 2 months, so I would say he's going to be somewhat limited. But still, I don't really want to go to the Rangers versus Clevenger. Would much rather target some of these lefties from the Indians, especially the really cheap ones in the middle part of the lineup. But I think that's it for my 5 plays today, guys, for DraftKings. Let's go ahead and talk about some stacks now, then we'll look at some BVP plays. So my favorite stack by far is the Angels. I'm going to be loading up on the Angels today, specifically the 1 through 6 with La Stella, Trout, Ohtani, Pujols, Upton, and Calhoun. Those are the 6 guys that I really like from the Angels. If you want to play the 7 through 9, you can, but I really like the top of the order, the top and middle part of the order versus Edwin Jackson. But some of the other teams we could potentially stack, like I mentioned, the lefties from the Indians I really like, especially the cheap ones in the middle part of the order. I think they make some sense versus Lance Lynn in Texas. Some other teams we could look to stack, wouldn't mind going to some Oakland bats versus Andrew Cashner. They're pretty cheap as well, like Chris Davis at only $4K against Andrew Cashner really stands out in the outfield. I think he's a great play today. Simeon leading off at 4,400, Chapman at just 4,300. If you're looking for a value stack, definitely target some of these Oakland bats versus Cashner. Then some Dodgers versus Tyler Beede, I wouldn't mind. But the Dodgers are going to be more of a secondary stack. Definitely not going to have them as my core stacks, I expect. The 3 teams I mentioned, Oakland, Angels, Indians, those are the 3 teams I'm probably going to be going to the most. So I think that's it for stacks today, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about some BVP now before we end the video. So there's quite a bit of BVP plays. I'm just going to cover the ones that really stand out to me. If you want to look at all the BVP plays, you can pause the video here. But starting off with Matt Adams, he's gone 9 for 25 with a home run off of Jake Arrieta. Jonathan Lucroy has really hit Edwin Jackson well, 12 for 32 with 2 home runs. Freddie Freeman has crushed Zach Wheeler, 10 for 20 with 2 home runs, 500 average against him. Towards the bottom here, a couple of these Giants have hit Maeda well. Brandon Belt, 6 for 17. Joe Panik, 7 for 16 with a home run. Let's see, Matt Chapman gone 5 for 10 off of Andrew Cashner, so that's a bit notable if you're stacking the Athletics today. But other than that, I think that's pretty much all the BVP plays I'm going to cover. I think that is it for the video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this video, and hopefully it did help you. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you click that like button down below, and make sure you subscribe if you have not already. And if you do have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. You can always leave comments down in the comment section, or you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT. Feel free to DM me on Twitter as well if you have questions. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one. Good luck tonight. Peace.